Hi guys, my name is Isaac Lepe and today I'm going to be drawing. It's kind of a suggestion I got on TikTok a while back, maybe like a week and a half ago. I finally got around to it. I've been meaning to do it, but yeah, if you have any other suggestions for things I should draw, please like just drop it in the comments. Also, you know what? Leave a like and subscribe because every YouTuber says that, so I have to say it. I feel obligated. And then before we even get started on the drawing, I'm showing you some of the stuff that I've done with the markers, which is the medium that I wanted to use today, which I didn't explain at all in the video. I didn't explain that I wanted to draw Todo either. I'm still getting around to this, still practicing. But these are some of the works that I've done with the markers so far. And I'm really proud of some of these ones. The color lays down really well. You can go over it well, add some layers, get this like nice depth to it. And that's always been something that I've really been pulled to with these markers. And this is me showing off a lot of the Spider-Man stuff that I own because if you couldn't tell, I love the character and he just means everything to me. And as we get started on the drawing, I'm just showing you some of the materials I'm using. So these are the markers I'm using. I think they're Artist Loft, and then these are pencils. I don't know the specific brand. I'll probably check it out later. Maybe I'll put it in the video. But I wanted to talk more about the video because, of course, you'll get to see the drawing from start to finish, but I thought it'd be really cool to actually explain my thought process as an artist and kind of work it through and maybe explain some things to people who aren't artists and maybe a little confused about what I'm doing, or people who are artists and are still confused by what I'm doing because I don't know. Everybody has their own path. So I thought this would be a really good opportunity to present that and just kind of give you more of like the inside knowledge or whatnot, or how my mind works, at least when it comes to drawing things. And to start off, I have these two pencils. So I have a HB and a 2B, and the difference between the pencils is essentially the hardness. So the HB pencil is going to have a little bit of a harder time applying itself to the paper. So as you can see in this outline, I'm using it to get the skeleton, get the proportions right, and just kind of work my way through and make sure everything looks good before I actually start to finalize it. And for me, this is a really important step because I love to make sure that the drawing is as accurate as it can be. It kind of bothers me if it's not, so I'm really, really picky about that, and it just helps me really get that in before I actually start trying to do anything else. And I think this is, for me, the most important part of the actual process because later in the drawing, if something doesn't line up well, it's going to really deter me and make me want to stop. So, of course, in the first step, this is essentially my main goal is to make sure everything looks good before I start to go with the 2B pencil. And with the 2B pencil, it applies itself to the paper a lot easier. So this is essentially your store-bought pencil. So if you went to the store, bought a pencil, this is how it puts itself down. And as you can see, I'm actually applying the same amount of pressure that I was with the HB pencil, but because it puts down a lot softer, the color's a lot more bold, it's a little darker. And for me, that works great when I'm actually done with the proportion aspect of this and I'm really just trying to make in the details and trying to quote-unquote finalize the drawing as it is before I move on to outlining and coloring essentially. Well, this is where the proportion thing comes in. So I'm erasing this eyebrow a lot and trying to get it in to work, make it look good because it was bothering me. And I actually think I went back to fix it maybe 2 more times later after this. And I'm really focused on getting the details in the face and the hand right because on this reference image that I'm using, the focal point is really there. So like the jacket and stuff has less details overall, and you're probably not going to focus on that when you look at it for too long. You're just going to see the eyes and the hand. And that's my main point that I have to get correct. And I'm going to use this time maybe just talk a little more about the character. Todo's from an anime called Jujutsu Kaisen, which I've watched, and this was a request that I got from a follower on TikTok. I think he's a follower, doesn't matter, but it's a request that I got off TikTok. I thought it'd be a great opportunity because I really love this, they're called mangakas, which is basically manga comic artists, but I really love his art style, especially towards the earlier start of his career or on this specific run. And it's just always been really cool to see how it's still messy but really uniform at the same time. Like in tradition, most artists kind of finalize their works. It looks really clean. The line art is great and it's really consistent. And I don't mean that saying that he's bad at all, but like there's like some variation to the line thickness. Like the shirt, you can see that there's a couple like the streak marks essentially, and that's going to be really cool to recreate with the markers. So to me, I thought this would be a really awesome piece to do. And Toto's just a really cool character. I recommend checking out the anime. I can't explain it in justice because I'm really bad at explaining things, but I really recommend watching it. Now I'm working in getting some really simple details in on the jacket and then actually attacking the man bun at this point. It's a little harder sometimes for me to do that just because hair is a finicky thing. Thankfully, there's not that much detail in this, so you can really just get away with it. I don't really need to put that much time into the jackets just because, like I said earlier, you can see in this reference, it's really simple and it just doesn't require as much of my attention. All right, and now we're moving on to the actual coloring of this, but first, you're going to see that I'm using this tool. It's called a kneaded eraser. Essentially, imagine Play-Doh, except it can erase. It's a really helpful tool. I can get into the nooks and crannies of like smaller pieces that maybe normal erasers may be a little too thick to get into. And the way that I'm using it right now is I'm actually just rolling it across the paper. And what that does is it's kind of picking up the graphite and some of like the graphite dust that gets left behind. So if I started coloring with the marker, it'd leave a streakiness behind because the pencil lead is essentially getting like smeared across the paper. And for me, I hate that. I don't know who likes that. Everybody I know hates that. This marker already has a streakiness to it because I think I might have been opened a little bit when I bought it, or maybe I even did that. But either way, I think it's still going to show pretty well. And believe it or not, this color is it's a warm gray. It's advertised as a warm gray, but it kind of comes down more of like a light tan, almost like a peachy-ish kind of color. But it really does work well for his skin tone, and you can see like just using the one color, I'm able to go through, put down a base, and then come back and kind of add to it. So like the saturation is saturating more, and the color can work for shadows and shading and things like that, which is really one of the huge parts of these markers that I love. You can just use one marker and get so much out of it, and I know that's how it is with most mediums, but just like for whatever reason, just with markers specifically, it's always been something super cool. And that's me trying to use another marker, and then I ultimately go back to the warm gray just to kind of layer it a little more, get more color out of it, and just really darken that part, especially in the eye. That's a scar. I kind of forget how he gets it in the show, but it's probably some really cool fight scene. And then this is me working in with some of the other colors. Usually I would do a line art before actually applying colors, except I think I've had a hard time because I'm a really impatient person. So every time that I've done the line art, I've gone immediately into drawing. Immediately into coloring. So then the line art bleeds and it kind of leaves the black smudges and smears it across the paper. Same thing I didn't like with the pencils. So for me, I just thought if I saved it towards the end, that'd be a little easier. And I think if I just waited a longer time, instead of like maybe the 5 seconds that I actually do, it would be a lot better. But I also do like being able to see how all the colors block together before the line art really brings it all together and shows you like this is how much of the piece it can change essentially. And I decided to get some of the lighter colors in out of the way first because I was worried about bleeding, the bleeding of like purple into the tan, and same thing with the yellow into the tan. And black is going to be the final color that I use, and that color, of course, black is just going to be a lot stronger than like these other colors. It's going to cover it up, and it's going to be a lot harder to kind of like take back, especially since it's a marker. I can't like erase it, paint over it, anything like that. And it's like once I put it down, you really can't take it back. So of course there's some sense of like risk, but really you got to be kind of smart about it. And it's not even that hard to be smart about it, I think. It's just like just plan out a little bit. Even my monkey brain can do it, so it's not that bad. And now I'm going out with this outline of the black, being really careful to not mess up anything else that I've already placed down. And I left these blues there because those are going to kind of act as highlights essentially to the coat and give it the impression that it's being worn. He's not wearing it normally. He's just kind of got like one over his sleeve. That's how his arm's able to bug out the way it is. And the buttons like that on the side of his jacket will show that. And I believe this is a school uniform, so I don't know. I'm just saying jacket, but I mean, whatever. I'm just a dude. What do I know? It's just going to give you the idea that like this is conforming to his body and it's not just like this black mass on him. And I'm leaving some space for the highlights. Hopefully I can go over next in the drawing and kind of make it darker, show you a little more with that, and quote unquote blend it into the actual drawing. As you can see right here, I'm leaving some black around the edges and even some white spaces with that because like I said earlier, I was worried about the bleeding because I didn't want it to cut into the button and then I'd have to like make the button a little smaller because I could just throw the piece off a little bit. And maybe not by a whole lot, but just enough for me to really be bothered by it. So I'm doing it the way I want to do it because ultimately at the end of the day, this drawing is for me. Of course, for the TikTok guy, but I mean, for me, I have to get it right. And now that I'm done with that, I'm just kind of going in through with the blue. You can see I tried using a bit of a darker blue, but it just didn't really lend itself to that. So I'm using this gray instead, and the gray works a little better. So now I'm just trying to go over it with the gray, go back over it with the blue in a bit, and I'm just trying to work it in. It's a little harder because I do have a limited amount of colors that I have, so I can only get so accurate, especially because I'm not entirely sure if the work that the manga artist did was on a digital paper or I just didn't have the same tools as he did to recreate it one-to-one. But I mean, it's close enough, and I actually still really love how it's going to turn out. And now I'm working in through the line art. I don't know if I showed it too fast, but I have two pens essentially that I'm using. So it's an 08 and an 05. And the bigger the number is, so like 08 is going to be a little thicker than the 05. And the 08 puts down a pretty, I'll just say 8 because, or maybe I'll say 08. Oh, who knows? But I mean, that one lends itself really well to this because it's just a little bit of a thicker line. I can get some of like the major details in, especially because you can see like on some of these smaller portions of the artist's work, they kind of like, they're almost like ink lines, and he does it in one fell swoop. Still not as thick as his probably, but it gets the point across. And I wanted to save that for the end. And as you can see, it's really starting to bring the piece together. And there are some parts where I did color over that, and I will use a white gel point tip to kind of it's like a pen. You can use it for highlights and things like that. And if you make a mistake like me, which I often do, you can fix some things like that. As I'm going through, I'm getting what I can, so I can get some of the shading in, some of the more hand details, but the 0.5 or the 05 that I'm going to be using later is a lot for like the smaller portions where he's doing like, I wouldn't say it's cross hatching, but he's like, his shading is just the lining on the bottom. So like underneath his chin, on the side of his neck, some of the spots on his face and around his eye, like the scar, that's what I'll be saving that for. And as you can see, I haven't gone around to the hair yet just because the pieces are a little thinner than the brush or the chisel tip could really allow me to get, and because they do bleed. The marker applies itself really well, but if I'm like too slow and I put too much of it together, it's going to start bleeding. And I mean, other than that, I don't really think there's much more that I can say towards this drawing, at least as it stands. You can see I'm going back to being a messy drawer or a messy artist. I somehow got purple up in the corner. I'm not entirely sure how I did that, but I mean, I did it anyways. Leave it to me to make a mess of things. Oh, I also forgot that I hadn't drawn the actual details in his ears. Other things I forget. Thankfully, it's not as huge a detail as I maybe would have thought, but I mean, worked it out. Everything was great. Man, I really don't know what else to say. This video took me a little longer to make. Man, when you start making videos, you really see how hard it is and how much effort goes into it. So, I mean, a lot of appreciation to the people who actually are able to pump these videos out like weekly, daily, and things like that. It's just a lot harder, a lot more work than I even realized. I had to restart the camera, not to restart the camera. I had to leave the camera to turn off because it overheated on me 2 times, ran out of storage. The angling of it was weird. This isn't how I usually draw. I have my head really close to the paper, and of course I had to kind of like redo that where I'm like making sure my head stays away from the paper because it obviously if you have a big head and it's covering the frame, you're not going to see the drawing, right? And with that, there's just a lot of curves to get around, and honestly, like I think it's worth it. It's a lot of fun. It's a process for me, and even if like my videos don't do too well, I am really just enjoying this entire process, really just being able to make something. And it's really nice to see the whole thing in its like entirety. I'm used to just taking maybe a picture at the start, like this is the blank paper, this is the skeleton, and then I forget to do everything else. And I'm like, oh, this is the final result, and you don't really get to see the progression of that. You get to see the whole piece of it throughout the video, and to me that's always been really cool, and I just like really like watching it as I'm putting it down. It's really cool. I mean, it's a little longer than maybe I would have thought, but I mean, it's really cool. And now as you can see, I finished up with the drawing, which is about time, putting my little signature in and then the character's name. I'm really happy with how it turned out. The colors lended itself great to the piece. The streakiness, I tried to get as close as I could in the shirt, and I think it worked really well. Proportions look pretty well. I think it's not a 1-to-1, of course, but I think it's pretty dang close. It's probably like 90% of the way there. And I hope that the person on TikTok, if he sees this, he's happy with it. But I mean, safe to say, I think this was pretty good, pretty worth it. I want to do more stuff like this. Of course, I'm using markers. This is one of my new times using the markers, but I mean, I think I explained that in the video. I'm recording this before I actually did the voiceover for the video, so I mean, I hope I don't look too stupid. Maybe I do. If you sat through that whole video, I don't know how long it is. Hopefully not too long, because I have a short attention span, and I hope I didn't bore anybody with it. But thank you guys again for watching, and if there's anything else, like I said, any other drawings you want me to do, anything else like that comes to mind, please drop that in the comments and like and subscribe. Thank you again for watching the video, and I hope you have a good day. Maybe I shouldn't kiss. I'll take that back. I have a girlfriend. Have a good day, and then like high five or something.